defined very strictly as the square. The space between the square and the courthouse needs to be whatever the courthouse wants, but it needs to be some kind of a plaza that looks more like a circulation space to emulate what used to be a street, to give the definition to the square that it needs. We fought this battle with the courthouse back then, and basically it was the federal government. They said, no, it will be this way. You will not keep that street open, and that was that. The commission many years ago, wrote a paper about the squares. I wrote a monograph, and it's available. I don't know if you've read it. We're pointing out that the most historic element in Austin is the Waller grid. That's the oldest, that's the most historic, and the importance of that is that it's defined blocks that are square blocks. Every time we close a street, every time we do that we bridge over a street, we harm that. Somehow we keep forgetting this, and we keep doing it again and again. And we're doing it again here, because I think that basically there should be, if anything, a lack of recognition of the courthouse. It shouldn't be part of this. Courthouse needs to stand alone. The square needs to stand alone. Again, I point out this is only my opinion, because I haven't really talked with anybody else to see how they stand. This is really quite important, I think, and there should be an effort to at least look at that, and how do you define the square, so you pull it back into the grid and you define the grid again. Secondly, unless I missed something, there seems to be no recognition of the history of the square. And the history of the square is incredibly important, because it was the original Mexican neighborhood for Austin. I'm not a historian, but my wife is, and she's written several papers concerning the history of this area. And somebody needs to reference that, and they need to read those. This was the center of what used to be called Mexican Town. And then when this area of Austin became a little too important, they were physically moved into East Austin, including their church, which was Guadalupe Church, that got relocated, and they lost their square. I think it's critically important that there be some reflection in this design of what the history of the square is. I don't know how, but leave it to the designers. But it needs to be referenced. We can't just drop it, because then it will disappear forever. And that's all I have to say.
Well, I think there's many layers to this plan that obviously we didn't get into every single one of them, but one of them is, and something that we're definitely sensitive to, is going to be providing area and what I'll call actual flexibility, so that when the Mexican American Cultural Trail is developed as